This presentation delivers an extensive operational analysis of the governance framework and document mapping architecture designed for a registered NDIS provider. Operating within the highly regulated disability sector requires more than a conceptual commitment to quality. It demands a systematic synchronization between leadership oversight and verifiable business documentation. The objective of this session is to demonstrate how the organization's quality management system operationalizes high-level corporate governance, transforming statutory obligations into a clear, continuous, and audit-ready evidence trail. Section 1 establishes the organizational architecture of the governance framework. Under Core Module 2 of the NDIS Practice Standards, governance is assessed on how effectively an organization's governing body maintains strategic oversight, operational accountability, and legal compliance. This section examines the specific policies that direct the leadership executive. Accountability begins with policy on governance. The governing body assumes collective responsibility for steering the organization in alignment with the Australian Institute of Company Directors, AICD, corporate governance quadrants. This policy mandates that leadership competence is not assumed but systematically reviewed via annual performance self-assessments and structured professional development plans. Crucially, this policy governs the transparency of organizational decision-making. A primary risk in healthcare and disability governance is the presence of unmanaged conflicts of interest. Under this policy, the organization enforces the proactive identification, declaration, and mitigation of potential conflicts, requiring all board members and executives to log disclosures inside a centralized, dynamically updated conflict of interest register. This ensures that personal or financial interests never compromise participant outcomes or organizational integrity. To execute policy on GovernNV, the operational infrastructure relies on three core governance essentials: hierarchy, delegation, and stewardship. First, the organizational hierarchy is clearly delineated from the board of directors down to the frontline disability support workers. This structure removes ambiguity regarding reporting lines, operational boundaries, and clinical escalations. Second, formal instruments of delegation ensure business resilience. Financial and operational thresholds are clearly mapped, defining exactly who holds the authority to approve expenditures, sign service agreements, or alter operational parameters. This safeguards continuity if key personnel are absent. Third, the principle of stewardship ensures that executive decisions prioritize human rights, safety, and the long-term sustainability of support delivery over short-term operational convenience. Policy on strategic and operational planning provides the mechanism for organizational resilience. Governance requires a dual-focus view, a long-term strategic vision and a short-term operational focus. The organization maintains a rolling 3-year strategic plan that is formally reviewed and updated annually. This plan does not exist in isolation. It incorporates legislative shifts, NDIS pricing review updates, and direct feedback from the community. In tandem with the strategic vision, the organization executes yearly operational plans. Revised every June during executive planning cycles, these operational plans translate high-level strategies into department-specific key performance indicators, KPIs. For NDIS auditors, the evidence of this policy in action is found in the published minutes of the annual planning days and the quarterly management review reports that track actual outputs against these established KPIs. Financial integrity is protected under policy on financial management. The organization operates strictly under the Australian Accounting Standards Board (AASB) frameworks, utilizing accrual-based accounting methods to manage NDIS funds accurately. Financial governance focuses heavily on fraud control, risk minimization, and transparency. Staff at all levels undergo mandatory fraud awareness training, and policies dictate immediate escalation pathways to the NDIS Quality and Safeguards Commission should any financial irregularity occur. To maintain absolute transparency, the governing body reviews itemized annual budgets against quarterly actuals. Furthermore, segregation of duties is strictly enforced. Internal payroll and invoicing lines are completely separate from the independent financial reconciliation executed by external, certified public accountants, preventing unauthorized or non-compliant financial transactions. Section 2 introduces the operational shield of the organization, the systems dedicated to enterprise risk management, statutory compliance, and continuous quality improvement. In the NDIS landscape, governance must actively protect participants, workers, and the business entity from preventable harm. The organization's defensive capability is directed by policy on risk management, which adheres strictly to the international standard as NZS ISO 31000. Risk management is embedded across both corporate and service delivery levels. Corporate risks, such as cybersecurity breaches, financial deficits, or regulatory changes, are managed directly by the board. At the service delivery level, clinical and environmental risks are evaluated before any worker enters a participant's home. A mandatory home visit OS checklist must be completed to identify hazards such as environmental structural flaws, behavioral triggers, or medical care complexities. All identified hazards are logged within the centralized enterprise risk register, where they are assigned a risk rating score, clear mitigation controls, and a designated risk owner. High-rated risks are automatically escalated to quarterly executive meetings to ensure oversight remains proactive rather than reactive. Quality assurance is maintained through the intersection of policy on continuous improvement and policy on quality and compliance. The organization does not view compliance as a static milestone, but as an ongoing life cycle governed by the Plan Do Check Act (PDCA) model. Systemic data gathered from participant feedback, worker screening patterns, and incident reporting forms do not simply sit in folders, they are analyzed monthly by management. Any identified service gaps or process failures trigger immediate entries into the Continuous Improvement Plan (CIP). Compliance is further verified via an aggressive internal audit schedule, where random participant files, staff credentials, and financial invoices are pulled monthly to check that frontline practice mirrors our documented policies. This internal structure prepares the provider for the mandatory external independent triennial certification audits. This slide represents the core of the document mapping strategy. For an NDIS organization, compliance must be explicitly demonstrable to external auditors. This master matrix links specific governance pillars directly to internal policies and the exact business documents required to prove compliance. For example, when an auditor reviews the organization's operational authority, the policy reference is the corporate constitution, and the verifiable evidence is the signed board meeting minutes. When auditing enterprise risk, the auditor looks at the risk management plan backed by the live central risk register. Quality improvement is proved by showing how complaints directly populate the continuous improvement plan. HR screening compliance is verified via the worker screening status log, and disaster resilience is validated by cross-referencing the emergency management plan with verified records of annual staff evacuation drills. This layout ensures there are no gaps in the evidence trail. Governance is defined by its cadence. Compliance cannot be maintained if reviews are treated as ad hoc tasks. The organization operates under a fixed master audit and review schedule distributed across 4 key quarters. In March, focus is directed toward data security and privacy audits, alongside the submission of the annual NDIS self-assessment. June and July are dedicated to corporate health, including budget finalization, the publication of the annual report, and the strategic policy review. September shifts focus to stakeholder feedback, triggering the distribution and analysis of formal participant and staff satisfaction surveys. Finally, December closes the annual cycle with comprehensive WHS audits and physical checks of the asset register. This structured timeline guarantees that every NDIS practice standard is scrutinized and updated at least once every 12 months. The final operational pillar is policy on records and information management. In an NDIS organization, data is treated as a critical corporate asset. The management of this data must balance accessibility for support staff with absolute confidentiality for participants. Document retention protocols are strict, financial transactions, participant care plans, and employee records are retained for a minimum of 7 years post-service, while master training records are kept permanently. Digital information integrity is maintained through end-to-end encryption, multi-factor authentication, and restricted user access levels based on a strict, need-to-know basis. Frontline officers enforce a rigid, clean desk policy to safeguard physical documentation, and the entire system is backed up weekly via off-site cloud storage to ensure rapid disaster recovery, protecting participant privacy and maintaining corporate data integrity. In conclusion, a robust governance framework and systematic document mapping provide the foundation for service excellence. By ensuring that every executive decision, risk mitigation control, and quality improvement cycle is explicitly documented, the organization protects its participants, supports its workforce, and ensures long-term business viability. This framework moves the provider away from passive compliance, establishing it as a leader in structured, high-quality disability service provision. Thank you. The floor is now open for any questions or feedback regarding this governance structure.